Ruth and Michael's love story began in the heart of London. She was 30 and he was 35 when they met at a cosy jazz club. Their laughter danced in sync with the saxophone melodies and their souls found harmony. 3 years later, they exchanged vows and moved into a charming house nestled amidst the bustling streets of the city they adored. Yet, despite their love, an empty cradle echoed through their home. 2 years of trying, of whispered prayers and tear-streaked pillows yielded no joy. The doctors ran all the necessary tests and observations, but were unable to find a cause. The diagnosis of unexplained infertility elicited a feeling of hopelessness, as without a cause, how can there be a solution? However, the doctor could see the desperation in their eyes, so quickly followed by suggesting they would be great candidates for IVF. "I'm terrified of needles," Ruth spoke up. "Is there any other way to administer the hormones?" she asked. "I'm afraid not," the doctor replied, "but we can put you on the schedule with the least number of injections. It is just as effective," they added. "I guess this means I'm about to face and hopefully overcome my fear of needles," Ruth said, trying to crack a smile. "It would absolutely be worth it though." Ruth clung to hope, her fingers entwined with Michael's. As they looked into each other's eyes, Michael said, "How soon can we start?" In the quiet hours of waiting rooms and hormone injections, Ruth discovered an online community, a lifeline for her weary heart. There, she met Evelyn, a kind and funny woman living across the ocean in Canada. Their virtual friendship bloomed, fueled by shared experiences and midnight chats. Ruth learned that her and Evelyn were the same age, that Evelyn too had married her love in the same year as her and Michael had married, and they both now yearned for the pitter-patter of tiny feet. On one of the many late-night calls early on in their friendship, Ruth confided in Evelyn, "You spend so many years of your life trying not to get pregnant." And Evelyn interrupted, "And now we want the baby, nothing." They both laughed. The IVF rollercoaster twisted their emotions, hope rising with each embryo transfer, only to plummet with negative results. Ruth and Evelyn became confidants, their messages and calls spanning time zones. They celebrated small victories, the follicle count, the embryo quality, and mourned together when hope waned. Michael, the steadfast anchor in Ruth's life, played an essential role throughout their fertility journey. His love was both a sanctuary and a catalyst, grounding Ruth when hope wavered and propelling her forward when despair threatened to engulf her. As they navigated the maze of IVF clinics and hormone injections, Michael held Ruth's hand during every appointment. His eyes mirrored her longing, and his whispered assurances became her lifeline. When the doctor's words felt like shards of glass, each failed attempt, each negative test, Michael's embrace stitched her broken heart back together. Then, just like that, 2 years had passed, and Evelyn is on her third IVF attempt. She reached the end of the 2-week wait, expecting to be told that it once again had been unsuccessful. But this time the blood test came back positive. "I'm sorry, what?" asked Evelyn. "Positive for what?" she asked again. Evelyn was in complete shock and disbelief, but she was pregnant. There was one person in particular that Evelyn wanted to share the news with, but she hesitated, fearing it would wound Ruth's fragile heart. But she need not have worried. Ruth cried tears of joy and screamed in excitement. "You're going to have a baby!" She rejoiced for Evelyn, even as her own longing intensified. When Evelyn's news arrived, Michael celebrated with Ruth, yet his eyes held a hint of sorrow. He knew that Evelyn's joy was a mirror reflecting their own unfulfilled desires. But he never wavered. Instead, he encouraged Ruth to chat with Evelyn to find solace in shared experiences. 6 weeks later, Ruth woke up alone in bed, realising that Michael had managed to leave for work without waking her. As she started getting ready for work herself, she suddenly realised that she was a few days late. This wasn't entirely unusual, and after so many years of negative test results, Ruth didn't expect it to mean anything. Nevertheless, she went to go dig out a pregnancy test from her drawer. "I might as well rule it out," Ruth thought to herself. The pregnancy test revealed 2 strong pink lines. a miracle etched in plastic. Ruth couldn't believe her eyes. She rushed out of the house to go purchase a digital test, not caring that she would be late logging into her work laptop. Digital tests are more accurate, she thought. This time, there was no denying it. The words pregnant, 1 to 2 weeks, on the digital screen spelled it out. Ruth laughed out loud as tears of happiness welled up in her eyes. The sound echoed loudly in the empty house. That day, she tried with all her willpower to focus on work, but her mind was never far from the news. Ruth impatiently waited for the workday to end and for Michael to return home. Ruth left the digital pregnancy test in her bedroom where Michael could easily find it. She greeted him at the door as he crossed the threshold into their London home, then followed him into the room. His eyes finally landed on the pregnancy test, and he stopped in his tracks midway through unbuttoning his shirt. "Ruth, what is that?" Michael asked, knowing full well what it was. He had seen many identical tests in the time since they had been trying to conceive, but this time the words were delivering a positive message. Ruth could hardly contain her delight as she danced around their bedroom. "We're pregnant," Ruth squealed. Michael joined Ruth's dance, spinning her around the room in joy. "We're pregnant," he shouted back as he beamed from ear to ear. Hours later, Ruth and Michael were sat down at the dining table, tucking into a celebratory Chinese takeout for dinner. Michael paused in between bites of his spring roll. "You have to tell Evelyn," he said. "She's not going to believe it." Ruth smiled lovingly at Michael. "Are you sure you don't mind?" she asked. "I know you would have preferred to wait for 12 weeks. "Of course I don't mind," Michael reassured her. "Of all people, she will understand exactly how you're feeling right now." "Thank you, Michael," Ruth said as she kissed Michael softly on the lips. With trembling fingers, Ruth scrolled for Evelyn's name in her recent contacts list. Ruth took a quick photo of the pregnancy test with the results screen clearly visible, hit send, and then waited. About 5 minutes later, Ruth's phone started buzzing. It was Evelyn. Evelyn didn't bother with a greeting, and with a slight tremor in her voice, she asked, "Ruth, what are you trying to tell me?" Ruth laughed. "I need to hear you say it," Evelyn said, sounding slightly choked up. Ruth's voice trembled, and just above a whisper she said, "We're expecting." Evelyn's tears flowed across the Atlantic. "Oh, Ruth, I'm so happy for you." Her joy was genuine. "I'm so happy for us." "I didn't even know you were trying another round of IVF," Evelyn remarked. "We weren't," Ruth clarified. "After more than 4 years of trying, it actually happened naturally." "Evelyn, this is literally the plot of a movie. We get to be pregnant together," Ruth said through her own tears. The months passed and they compared bump sizes, navigated swollen ankles, midnight cravings and baby names together. Evelyn's son arrived first, a tiny bundle of dreams fulfilled. Ruth held her phone, listening to the newborn cries, imagining the scent of baby powder and the warmth of motherhood. Just 4 short weeks later, Ruth's own contractions began. Michael's hand squeezed hers and they raced to the hospital. Their son arrived, eyes wide like the London sky after rain. Ruth whispered his name, a promise fulfilled. And so, across continents, 2 boys took their first breaths. Evelyn's son, cradled in her arms, gazed at the Canadian snow, and Ruth's son, nestled against her chest, felt the rhythm of London's heartbeat. As the boys turned 1, Ruth and Evelyn planned a meeting, a reunion of souls who had shared more than geography, and their first time meeting face to face. They chose a park in London where autumn leaves whispered secrets. Evelyn's laughter blended with Ruth's and their sons crawled toward each other, chubby hands reaching. "Look," Ruth said, tears shimmering. "They're friends already." Evelyn nodded, her eyes reflecting the journey, the IVF needles, the whispered hopes, the silent prayers. "Our boys," she whispered, "born from love and longing." And so, in that London park, 2 women embraced, a friendship forged in the crucible of waiting. Their sons giggled, oblivious to the miracle that had brought them together. Ruth and Evelyn knew they were more than mothers. They were warriors, dreamers, and sisters of the heart. If you enjoy this story, please do give the video a thumbs up, share the video with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming tales of love, resilience, and self-discovery. See you next time.